Good afternoon, Penguin Beaches, and welcome down to a super stormy Stony Point. So we are in the midst of a lovely Cape storm. My name is Jax. I'm sure you can hear that wind. It's blowing directly towards me now. And I'm going to be your naturalist today. We have Igor behind the camera, and we also have a very special guest who will be joining us later on in the show. So I'm actually going to just try to turn my back towards the wind, just because I think you're getting a lot of that noise coming towards you now. So the wind is blowing from the northwest today, and it is very windy. So it's supposed to gust at about 37 knots. But we are excited to be able to still do the show with you and hopefully find you some penguins. So I'm going to move slightly. It looks like we might have some penguins coming back from the seashore. Just a reminder that we are a live show. So please do send us in your comments and questions. And you can do that on our website or by scanning the QR code. And I am sorry that we do have some people on screen today. We do have people walking past us. This colony is open. And so we are going to have people walking up and down past the camera, which is exactly what you would experience if you were down here at Stony Point. Looks like we've got a little bit of a lull in the rain, which is pretty nice. We've got some penguins who are trying to make their way back from the seashore. So they've already been out fishing. Let's go have a look at the official weather report. So we're just having a look at the ocean, which is lying to us, because from here it doesn't look all that windy and all that stormy. That's because the wind is blowing towards it, so it's seemingly blowing it flat. And I hope that you guys had the most wonderful time with Byron over the last couple of days. I'm sure he was so happy to be back on the show. Lolly, I'm so glad that you're excited. I'm hoping that we've got some lovely sights and some interesting things to talk about today. We had 2 unanswered questions yesterday on the show, and the one was about penguins and puffins and how closely related they are. And it turns out not very closely related at all. We don't have puffins down here in the southern hemisphere. You're very lucky to have them in the northern hemisphere, places like Iceland and off the coast of the UK. And the other unanswered question, Penguin Beaches, was a question that we had on Monday, spoke about on Tuesday and Wednesday, and that is the question of why seabirds are black and white. And the reason for that, the color black on the wings and on the backs of these seabirds tends to be very sturdy, so it means that the feathers are getting less damaged. Black also heats up a lot quicker than white, and so with birds that fly, that actually really helps them. And we've got some penguins who are going up the stairs. So they've learned to use human infrastructure to make their way to their nest.
Hi, I am David. I come to you live from the Mana Triangle, all the way from Kenya.
This is not a postcard. This is real. Sunrise in the beautiful Masai Mara.
I think Safari Guide of the Year is a great competition to be a part of.
I'm very excited today to be one of the guides that have been nominated.
It's quite a prestigious event, and it means that you are recognized.
Also looking forward to a little bit of competition.
Even just to be selected as one of the 5 finalists is an honor that I never expected, and special to be a part of it.
And so back to that unanswered question. So the black on the wings can help seabirds fly better. They fly for longer. The black wings are, the black feathers are more sturdy, and so they're more resistant to things like UV and wind and all the things that can cause damage to feathers. And white, according to a scientific journal, the JSTOR journal, talking about white plumage, has found that white is the default plumage color. So most feathers, in theory, would start off white, and we are going to have a car coming down here in just a moment. You might hear that car. We are situated at the boat club, and so you're just going to hear the sound of cars driving past quickly. But back to the feathers. So white is the default color of a feather, and I think for seabirds there was no point in them developing an array of different feather colors. Most seabirds live on islands, so they don't need to camouflage themselves very well. Those that do are often brown or black in color, and that's mostly to blend in. I think a lot of your nocturnal seabirds, I find, tend to have darker coloration. And there are articles that talk about counter shading of seabirds. They talk about how black and white can help them in the water with predators. Once a bird dives down into the water and they are white in coloration, white is very conspicuous in the water. And so the counter shading, I think, works if a bird is sitting at the surface, but once they dip down below, that doesn't really make too much sense. There's also an article that I found. It looks like we've got some more people coming down. It's amazing to see how many people are willing to come down in these weather conditions. I'm quite impressed, actually. But with your, I was talking about white feathers. Amanda, so that's a very good question. So cars and people do impact penguins. So if ever you are in an area where penguins live, if you are on the roads around them, it's very important to drive very slowly because penguins do cross roads. I think most of the people down here are aware of the fact that there might be penguins around. And we do have another car starting and another one coming down. And people also impact penguins. So sometimes we go up to them or we scare them by mistake. It all just comes down to giving animals space, respecting them. And if you are driving slowly. And you can apply this rule not only to African penguins, but to all wildlife. Drive slowly, give animals their space, be it by foot or in a car. And you'll be rewarded with much better sightings. And this is their home. I think humans actually settled here long before penguins did. so we, sorry, penguin beaches. We just have some cars. We just have some cars who are having a nice chat, and so we just have to wait for them to head off. So the fun part of living in a small town is that small town people know everyone, so you tend to know everyone who's around, and you'll stop and you'll quickly greet them, which is exactly what's happening here. So not only do we talk about wildlife on this show, but also the things that happen in small towns. But we will hopefully be spending time with a penguin. He's sitting above the nesting area. And today I have a very special surprise for you because we have a guest naturalist around. So today Kosher Governor is going to join us on Penguin Beach in about 5 minutes. She'll be with us, but Kosher is incredible. She works at the Two Oceans Aquarium. I met Kosher earlier this year just as I started working for WildEarth. We went on a kayaking trip together. And funny enough, Igor, who's behind the camera, was supposed to join that kayak trip, but Igor overslept. So that's how Kosher and I ended up on the kayak trip together. And now all three of us are here today enjoying the weather and the sights of Stony Point. So it is funny the way life works out. But Kosher's been having a great time down here, having a look at the penguins. She's an expert at rocky shores, so we can test her knowledge all we want on that. I'm so excited to learn from her. It looks like the rain has started.
It's time to put your feet up after a long week. WildEarth invites you to unwind with a weekend at the Waterhole, our life source of the bush, home to so much joy and danger. Join us on the 9th and 10th of July to get your wildlife refill broadcasted to you live all weekend at the Waterhole. WildEarth's weekend at the Waterhole is going to be epic, and we want to make sure that you are kitted out for the occasion. We've launched some wonderful merchandise just for you. Are you a dam cam lover? Find these and more on our website. So get your snacks ready, put your feet up, and join us for a weekend at the Waterhole.
So we are almost ready to have our surprise naturalist on show today. Just enjoy that sound of a penguin chatting. But I think it is time for us to introduce Kosher. Everyone, I'd love you to give a nice warm welcome to Kosher Governor. She is going to be chatting to us about some show and shell and hopefully giving us some great insight into the rocky shores down here at Stony Point. So thank you for joining us, Kosher. Lovely to have you with us, and we can't wait to learn from you today.
Wow, thank you so much, Jax, for that incredible information about me, and that was a lovely introduction, and welcome to the viewers. And yeah, it's a rather chilly day today, and we are not on the beach as Jax has mentioned. So early on today, Jax and I got to walk and to look at the various things that we could find on the beach. And we did a bit of beach combing today. So we've picked up a few items. So we're just gonna sit here today and show you a bit of these items. And to the viewers, you're welcome to ask any comments or questions. Just set up here. Yes. So the viewers, just to remind you to please, if you have any questions, to send them to us, any comments as well. You're welcome to use the QR code that you should be able to see right now, and then we will answer those questions together, and Jax will be here, and we'll be engaging with a bit of the items that we found. Okay, so it's a beautiful day. Yes, it's cold and chilly, but you can see the kelp already. It's about 2 hours into low tide. That means the kelp is nice and visible, and that kelp is so special because the amount of energy that comes to the shoreline, it kind of protects the animals that are there, and it also it's a very important plant as it provides an amazing ecosystem for a lot of life. But the animals that we're speaking about today are found in the rocky shore. And kelp, like I said, is very important because it's food for animals. And if you're looking for food for animals, you need to look for the plants. So there's lots of plants, there's going to be lots of life. And some of the examples we could talk about, so okay, let's say we're talking about the kelp. So this is a piece of a kelp holdfast. And this is an incredible piece of plant because this is used as an attachment, as an anchor for the kelp. So it's like a root system. Thank you so much, Janet, for that comment. And I'm so excited to be here and to share with you what we're finding. And it's really a passion of mine to talk about the rocky shore, but as well as the animals around here, which is the penguins, which they're around, but we'll get to them soon in a moment. But back onto the kelp. So the holdfast itself is incredible. This is a mini ecosystem for plenty of animals, plenty of life. And you could see a lot of, there's some dried up shells here. It was actually some mussels that were living here. They're not living anymore. But it's a nice little space. It's a home for plenty of animals that are starting in their larval stages, and then they develop and they grow into much bigger sizes. So if Igor is actually focusing on the mussel, you can see that how tiny they start off. So the mussels, these are filter feeding animals. So they've got an attachment, and most people don't realize that they can move. They actually can move when they feel like, okay, I'm not happy here, and they've got a little bit of a thread. It's a little thread that glues them to a rock substrate or a piece of the kelp that you see here, and they're just filtering out food. And this is a larger one that we picked up earlier that we are familiar with, the mussels, part of the mussel beds, and this was just washed up onto the shore. It could have been a yummy meal for the kelp girls. They love to pick on this. They pick it up and they drop it, and then they can get to the fleshy part of this animal. Okay, so that's the mussels and the filter feeders, and food for plenty of animals out there, and especially the birds. And so I could go on. One day I think we would probably have a chance to show you a live piece of holdfast, and then you can look at the piece, what kind of animals are in there and what else is exciting there. So keep that in mind and hold those questions for the holdfast.
We protect and reconnect nature across southern Africa. We bring countries together to care for wild spaces that stretch beyond borders. We protect and restore biodiversity. We prioritize the people living in these landscapes, enabling them to thrive in harmony with nature. We are restoring tomorrow.
So this is an incredible grazer of the rocky shore, and the animal lives inside here, a soft-bodied animal, like a slug, but it needs protection, and that's where the shell comes in. So it's a lovely grazer, eats on all the plants, the algae that you find in the rocky shore, in the intertidal area. And I want to actually point out, how do we know
I actually have a question. Can I ask?
Oh, Igor's got a question. Let's hear what it is.
Shell made of?
So the shell, what is it made up of? So most of these animals, they... I'm just listening to a question right now. Igor, back onto your question. So what is this made up of? So these animals have a special gland in their system that incorporates, it absorbs all the calcium carbonate, silica in the water. There's minerals in the water that they get. And then eventually they've got a gland that can produce and create this incredible shell. And it varies with species. It could be you get your oysters, you have your limpets, you have winkles, and you can see that beautiful pattern. This, you can't really see it now, but that incorporates inside and that contributes to the shell in some way. Okay, so they get it from the ocean itself. That's the shell. Calcium carbonate is the main one. So again, on that point about how do you know if it's a grazer or if it's an animal that eats on other animals? So there's another trick that we need to know when we're walking along the rocky shores. A lot of people mention these animals, they see these snails. Everything is a snail. There's a snail, there's a snail, there's a snail. But when we're working with the rocky shore intertidal animals, we need to be able to identify what's a whelk, what's a winkle, what's a limpet. And to help you out today, I hope you can take this information from me. So this is a winkle. It is a grazer. It has a roundish opening there that you see. And it has a trap door. So when they're out of the water, they need to keep their water inside. So this animal has a little door there. One day we'll have to find one. For you, Jax, have you seen one before? The little trap door?
Yes.
The operculum. And that seals them inside there. So how they cope and survive when they're out of the water is they push their body all the way up to the top. And then they shut door, as in they close that door, and it's in there for about 6 hours until the tide comes back and then they start to move again. Okay, so that's how they can keep nice and moist. Now back into what's let's say, a carnivore, a carnivorous animal. It's also one of the snails, and this is known as a whelk. There's different sizes, different species, a whole range of them out there. They've got more of a cone-shaped shell. Same situation, this animal is a mollusk. It's a snail type of animal, lived inside here. They've got an oval opening, and they also have a trapdoor, the operculum. And these guys are quite nasty in the rocky shore because what they do, they're very sneaky. They would actually eat on winkles. They will eat on shark eggs. Jax actually shared with you on one of the episodes, the shark eggs, because they have a little like a tongue that comes out, a proboscis, and they drill holes in other animals. And they absorb all of the food that they need. So these guys can chase the winkles, they're moving around, they're taking over. So these are your carnivorous animals, and they're always on the bout in the rocky shore, in the intertidal zone. Okay, so that's a whelk, and that's a winkle. And if you have any other questions, please, you're welcome to ask them, or any comments, and then we can talk about these things in more detail if you'd like. So just remember to send those through. So in my background, I'm a marine biologist and an educator, an oceanographer, and as a naturalist, recently been working on various kayaking groups, taking people out on tours, and now I'm so excited to be able to join the show on Penguin Beach, and this will be my first one as a live one. And I'd say, as a naturalist, I think everyone has a bit of a naturalist in them in their times when it comes to teaching. I'd say about 2 years of taking people around and just showing them what's out there and sharing stories. But in the education field for quite some time, so about 8 years. Yeah. And Jax, how about you? How long have you been as a naturalist?
So I've worked as a naturalist for 6 years now. But Kosher also works at the aquarium, and you've been at the aquarium for 14 years, I believe you said earlier on. So Kosher started off volunteering with the penguins at the aquarium, and so she's got so much hands-on experience with all the different species that we have in the ocean here. So you were telling me earlier on about penguins and how you guys are actually doing some x-rays on the penguins, which I think a lot of us would find very interesting.
Thank you so much, Jax, for that. I'm just getting to a question. If you could just repeat the question for me, please.
So I think Darren would like to know what's your favorite part of being by the ocean. Why do you work with oceanic wildlife?
Darren, thank you so much for that question. My favorite part of being at the ocean is actually just going rock pooling and following through and looking at various life, the invertebrates, because we always forget about it. We want to look at the sharks, the penguins, and these animals are beautiful, don't get me wrong. I'm a shark enthusiast myself. But there's so much in the rocky shore. And just walking around in the rock pools and looking at these animals in their little spaces. And then what I also find is the birds. The birds will watch you in the rock pools, like your kelp gulls and your cormorants, and they'll actually analyze and see what are you picking up, what you're looking at, curious creatures as they are, and loving that moment, just being out in nature. So for me, that's one of my favorite moments. And also being underwater. And as Jax has mentioned, I've been working at the aquarium for a very long time, for 14 years. I started off as a penguin keeper, and that meant as volunteer. So I got into volunteering first, worked for many hours with them. Then I realized I wanted to be with people. I wanted to share what I'm seeing with these animals, but also work with people. And that's where I can talk about the x-rays that you mentioned. If you got to see penguins, in a way, as in they also need the health checks. We have vets on board that are constantly need to check on all of our animals. And on Friday,
I haven't been
we got
drinking
the
energy bar.
to actually look at these animals in a way, like what's happening inside. So we have to sedate them for a bit and then place them onto the table, and then they're calm, take a quick x-ray, and then we can have a look at what's happening with these animals. It's incredible to see.
Must be, and I think it's so different, working behind the scenes where you're hands-on with the animals and guiding in an environment like this. It's two very different environments, but it must be so cool to, get to see that and get to see a side of penguins most people wouldn't.
Yes, that's so true. With penguins, and yes, they're with us for quite some time, and the interactions you see with the penguins with each other, then you start to give them names. They all have names. You need to identify them. As the viewers know, it's very difficult. Some viewers know that it's difficult to identify, tell the difference between them. And you'll see some just running around over there, waddling around. And in terms of which species we're talking about, you need to identify them according to their spots. So at the aquarium, when we're talking about the penguins and which penguin we're feeding especially, we need to keep track about how many fish we give them. So they all have names, and as a keeper, a penguin keeper, you need to know which penguin you're feeding, how many fish they're getting, and we identify them according to their spots. And these two are beautiful. They're just waddling along, and to see them in this environment is incredible. Jackie, that is a very good question. And motherhood for penguins, it does come naturally when once these animals leave their nest, about a year old, and they need to head out, these fledglings, they need to find food and find their way, and they need to fend for themselves. So they eventually develop these techniques. They will find a mate, and they will know that they need to breed at a certain time. And then when it comes to nesting their young, or when they lay their eggs, these instincts they just kick in. And I think it's the same with humans as well. I think most motherly instincts, one will think, I'm not ready to have a child. So then you'll just get into that process. And it's the same with the penguins. And they see other penguins doing this, and they'll start to display the similar sort of techniques and behavior to look after their young. And so that's very important, especially when they're mothering the little chicks that they have, okay, and feeding. Because feeding is quite a process for chicks, and these chicks can't see when they're young, they need to find food. Remember, when penguins feed, they don't actually give them whole fish. They regurgitate the food that they're eating. So if the mom or dad is out fishing, foraging, and they're getting the food that they need, they then need to feed their young. And these babies just want food. And I always think in my mind, when a chick is older, it's reached a certain age, it needs to fledge and fly, leave the nest eventually, how do they know what a fish looks like? So that's also the important thing, that they learn from each other, because once they leave, they're in their groups, and they'll swim together, they'll find their food, and the food that they'll choose to eat on is your sardines and your anchovies, so the smaller fish, and they'll work together. So yeah, thank you so much for that question.
I actually have a question, and I've been wondering about this for a very long time. Do all whelks and all of the mollusks that curl in a pattern, in a spiral, do they all curl the same way? And if you go to the northern hemisphere or another hemisphere, do they curl the opposite direction? Or how does that curling work?
So, Igor, that is a brilliant question. Sorry, let me just say this again. What Igor is asking is, when we're talking about the whelks and the winkles, so like the whelks, they turn. So you'll see that the different turns, the spins, the spirals that you're seeing along the shell here. How do we know which way it's spiraling, on the left to the right? And this means that it's different with each species. Yes, there is it's called tautening and tightening of their body, and then when they're creating the shell, it depends on the species. So I would actually like to get more into, thank you, Igor, I'm going to research a bit more of the actual detail of how they do the turns and the twisting around, but the torsion of that it's different with each species, and I actually need to know if it's specifically to the left in certain areas or to the right. It's a very good question, and I love that you put me on the spot there, because I've never actually looked into mollusks. I know of them generally, but let's look into the species of whelk and how is that positioning. And that really does matter when other animals also use the shells. And maybe do any of you guys know what other animal would use the shell as a little home? If you would like to comment about it, you can. But shells are very important on the beach, and we should always think twice before we just pick up a shell and then take that home. And that is because of a very unique animal that would use this as a home. So let's see what the viewers can say, and then someone could help me out there, and I could share that story with you. Hey?
Where'd the mountain go? There was a mountain there 5 seconds.
So Igor is stating that he's pretty sure he saw the mountain about 10 minutes ago, and right now it's disappeared. Somewhere in the distance, the Overberg Mountain is around, and we will have to wait a bit, because I think we're going to get some more rain, and the wind's picked up as well, so I hope you can hear me. In the distance, I see a penguin just making its way up, and I think he's also had enough of the wind and the breeze, and he's probably going to make his way back to his burrow on the upper shore. But I will go back to my little comments about the whelk, and I was thinking about the animal, and I thought about hermit crabs. So they are my favorite little crustaceans out there, because they love to use, here comes the wind, love to use the whelks as their home. And so what they do, it's hilarious. When these hermit crabs are moving around, they're actually looking when it's time for them to find a new home and a new space because they're too large now. They get rid of their old skeleton, and they also need to find a bigger shell. So the whelk is a suitable spot, but sometimes he grows out of this and he needs to find another one. So they move around mostly at the nighttime or when people don't see them and they're out of danger. And they actually try on their various shells. They actually try them on. So they slip out of their one shell and they move quickly, they pick up another one, and then they can go back into it. So that is a hermit crab, and it's kind of like changing clothes. Or another way to actually express this is like when you're in the shower and you want to run across quickly to grab a towel, and then this is what it reminds me of. Hermit crab, because they're a bit naked, they don't have their shell anymore, they're just moving to the next one. So that's how the hermit crabs move around, and I can actually show you here in a book what a hermit crab looks like, and you'll see that most of their shell openings, these are various species of hermit crabs. They prefer to use the whelks when they're moving around. They can use the whelks, but winkles are also an option because you get the alekrikel, the very large winkles with a round opening, and that, like this one, they can just squeeze inside there and then to move around. And what's interesting with these hermit crabs, they look like crabs up front, but actually their body is very long and almost like lobsters, and they have to squeeze their little body inside. So they go tail in first and they leave the head out, and these parts can stick out so they can feed and forage and continue to break their food apart. And they love to eat on anything they're like scavengers of the ocean. Okay, anything that's decaying or small or died, that's what they feed on. Okay, so that's the hermit crab. All right. I know it looks like today is all about our mollusks because we didn't get much of a chance to walk and look for some shells. Jax and I did a quick run in the rain and we were completely drenched. It was one way to look at the rocky shore, but one thing was interesting was we didn't mention was the limpets. So limpets are very cool animals as well. Excuse me while I have a cold nose here. So if you see, this is one of the shells that Jax actually gave me. So when we met this morning, she's like, I've got a gift for you. And this is what she gave me. And we were as a little show and shell. And this is an Arganvilla limpet. And you can see that this animal, the way they're designed, so it's found in the mid-intertidal zone. And they're exposed to a lot of wave action. So a lot of wave action, and they feed on pieces of kelp. If there's fragments of kelp, the leaves of that kelp that breaks apart and then they're close by, they're actually designed to just lift their body up, almost like a mushroom shape, and then they trap that piece of kelp and they're locked down and they feed on that for a bit of time. And a very hard structure. You'll see that because they can withstand a lot of wave action, and that's the shape that you're seeing here. So this one has been out of the water for a bit, exposed to a lot of sunlight, so you can actually tell the type of species. They've got these ripples on their body, but this one's been out for a very, very long time. Okay, so that is the Arganvilla limpet. And a very unique one that Jax also shared with me was this one, and this is called a kelp limpet. And you'll see that their design is very different. You've got the kelp limpet and the Arganvilla limpet. And this design is to help this animal to actually move along the stipe of the kelp. So for example, the stipe is quite long, and they just move along the stipe. So you see it's flattened side to side, and that design is to help them to hold on tight and not to withstand the waves. Okay, so moving across there.
The Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is approaching us rapidly. This year, we'll be heading to Bushwise Field Guides at the Southern African Wildlife College from the 27th June till the 2nd of July. We will soon meet all our contestants who are vying for the prize of being the very best of the best, and the judges who will put them through their paces. Join me, Steve Falconbridge, as we dream it, guide it, win it.
If you would like to be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration in Kenya live on WildEarth, then we have some great news for you. There are a few places left to join our expeditions in August and September this year. You'll be staying in an exclusive tented camp with ensuite bedrooms nestled in the riverine woodlands of the Talek River. Head over to our website to book your bucket list experience today. WildEarth Expeditions. Travel with purpose.
Amy, thank you for those comments. I'm glad you're enjoying the show and shell, which I love that Jax came up with that name, show and shell. And we were speaking about shells today. One of the other things was, Jax, did you welcome our viewers with your shell? No? We didn't do that?
You're welcome.
The welcome just fell down for a bit, but we had a welk around to find it. The wind kind of took it away, but the puns on the show are rolling, and Jack said, "Welcome to the show with the welk," and that was quite a funny thing. And if we needed any help, we had some kelp, so that's how we roll on the show. Are we looking for the? Can't find it anywhere. All right, viewers, so you reminded, well, please remember to send us your comments and your questions to us. We would love to hear from you. And that QR code, you should be able to see it on your screen. Very easy to send that through to us. And I'd love to hear if there are any questions about the rocky shore or any of the penguins. I haven't seen any birds, so the birds are calm. They're in their nest and hiding and taking some shelter. And it was just the penguins that were out and about today. We do see some Cape cormorants flying in the background there. It's a sort of a nice little window where the rain has stopped for a bit, and they're just taking some flights. So Justine has just asked if humans use shells for health benefits, and I'm trying to think if that is at the moment for humans. The animals, there's consumption of the shells. People eat mussels, people eat clams, various type of clam species, the winkles and the abalone. The shells, I'm not entirely sure if humans use the shell parts. Maybe Jax or Ego, if you know if any humans make use of the shells for health benefits. Because I know we have uses for necklaces and things, but not really on health. It's a great question. I think we would have to get back to you on that one if there are any uses for humans. And Jax will be on tomorrow, and I will make sure that we do our research and get back to you. Yes. So I think Ego was focusing on the kelp in the distance. And as mentioned, kelp is beautiful. And not a lot of people know that kelp is actually a great source of food as well. Great source of iodine. And I always share to public members that visit the Two Oceans Aquarium, and I was like, does anyone eat kelp? And a lot of people would say, no, why would I eat kelp? Because usually it's very washy. When it's washed up onto the shore, it's very smelly and it's not very nice, and why would we eat that? So actually we do eat it in a lot of foods, and Jack may have shared that with you, but we don't eat it directly. we actually extract a jelly from it called alginate, which is a see-through sort of jelly, can be used in various food products such as tomato sauce, mustard, mayonnaise. It's like a thickener and very useful in that way. And also in ice cream to prevent ice crystals from forming on your ice cream if you're making it at home. That's another option. And an alternative to gelatine as well. So kelp is an incredible plant and very useful for that. And I did have a question from, I think it was Amy, asking me if which is my favorite ocean bird. I think that was the question. And my favorite ocean bird would be the African black oyster catcher. And I just think that is a stunning bird. The way the colors on that animal is the beautiful black color. And when you're walking along the rock pools, you're just walking along and you don't actually see them because they blend in so well. They blend in so well, and they beautiful bills that are quite, it's like a striking red color. And they use that to prod at the sand and to look for food. So they're foraging into the intertidal areas amongst the kelp, the washed up kelp. And they love to eat on winkles. So it's well, for me I find them quite cute with a little cackling sound that they make when they're flying, when they're just about to take off, and it's a beautiful bird. So yeah, that would be my favorite ocean bird, seabird. I do enjoy the penguins too. Penguins are quite entertaining animals, and we've seen them, and they're not designed to walk on land, but they're beautiful in the water when they're swimming and they're gliding. It's incredible.
And coming up in first place and officially named Mbilo is Heart's Cub.
WildEarth have really inspired me to return to South Africa after having followed so many beautiful characters. This Ticket to Dream has given me a great opportunity to meet the WildEarth team, which I thank. They're all amazing. I love all of the characters, but I do have a particular passion for leopards. It's a dream, and as I said before, I just keep on pinching myself. Am I really here?
So Penguin Beaches, I really hope that you enjoyed having Kosher on. She is so knowledgeable. I learned so much. What was super interesting to me was about the whelks and how to tell the difference between a carnivore and a grazer on the seashore. I didn't know that, so I thought that was super cool. So thank you so much, Kosher, for being on our show with us today. We loved learning from you and hearing from you. And I really hope that we'll be seeing you again on the seashore. So it's just started to rain a little bit, and we're still looking at the kelp forest and looking out to see what else we might be able to show you today. And Igor, what do you see? What would you like to look at?
I forgot the English word for it.
Say whatever language you speak.
The parkwoord.
Pig's Latin or okay, sorry. It is the arum lily. The arum lily. So we have an arum lily sitting in between the June spinach. And arum lilies are often associated with wet conditions. And so they tend to grow wherever it is very wet. And you can see, if Igor moves around, you can see that the soil here seems to puddle a lot. It doesn't drain very well. It seems to just sort of capture all the water. And of course, we know that this water is going to end up back into the ocean, but arum lilies love boggy conditions, and so it seems like the perfect place for a lily like this to live. And it's something that I find really funny in the Cape is that in this, oh, they've got some penguins coming up. So we're going to go have a look at the penguins. But in this area, there's a saying that after 2 days of bad weather, what comes next is Monday. Because we always seem to have bad weather over the weekend. We've got 4 penguins who are heading towards us, and we also have 2 humans who are going to be passing the frame.
How do they know that the pole is right there in my frame?
And of course, you know that we have an afdaki show today, and so we have the pole, which is lovely for us because it's keeping us dry. But Igor says the penguins are purposely using this pole to avoid him. And I always say that in nature, it is only the law of Murphy that rules. But let's go have a look. We've actually got some Cape cormorants who are flocking out at sea. So we have no poles in front of them, and we can go have a look to see them heading out and about. And back to feather colour, back to that comment or those questions about why seabirds are mostly black and white and sometimes completely black. And one of the things that came up was that birds that tend to be all black in colour tend to be benthic feeders, bottom feeders, feeding at the bottom of the ocean. But the cormorants that we're seeing heading out now are our Cape cormorants, who are also completely black in colour. But the Cape cormorants are not benthic feeders. The Cape cormorants are midwater feeders because they eat sardine and anchovy, just like our penguins. And so I know it seems that we might not be able to find the right answer for why most seabirds are black and white in colour. And it seems that it's one of those burrowing petrel kind of questions, like the Burrowing Petrel Award. Oh, we've got some more penguins coming up, so we'll hopefully go have a look at those.
As soon as they emerge from behind the pole.
Here at WildEarth, we promised great monthly prizes for our explorers, and this month is no exception. If you join our club before the 10th of July, then you stand a chance to win a fabulous Safari Guide online course brought to you by Bushwise Field Guides. They specialize in accredited safari guide training with courses tailored for the African safari lodge industry. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer today and don't miss out on this life-changing opportunity.
So we were watching 3 penguins who are heading back to the nesting area, and I was just saying how I think we should do a poll one day to see who is more dramatic, Igor or I. That doesn't sound correct. I don't know why that sounds very grammatically incorrect. But I think if you watch Penguin Beach often, you'll know that I'm quite dramatic, and I think Igor is too. So I think it would be interesting to see who you think, as those who watch every day, takes the cake for the most dramatic member of the team down here at Penguin Beach. Igor would really love to win this. And Sammy, our director, is saying Igor wants to win because he'd get a penguin prize. And Igor wants to know if the penguin is the prize, and you will not get a real penguin as a prize. I think let's go have a look at our Cape cormorants again, because they are flocking in huge droves. I think it's because it's been raining all day. I don't know if they'll fly. They must fly out in heavy rain because there's heavy rain out at sea and they're heading in that direction. So it sounds like we are going to run the poll of the most dramatic Penguin Beach staffer tomorrow. So we'll be running that on our website. If you register, you can take part. Andrew, you're asking, once stolen, if the chicks have a high survival rate. So is that penguin chicks who have been stolen by other penguin parents? I'm not entirely sure. Weirdly, I've had this conversation the other day about Egyptian geese, because I found out that they steal goslings, and whales and dolphins also steal calves. So I know with whales and dolphins, actually, sometimes the calf doesn't survive. With the geese, they think that they steal goslings so that their actual chicks can survive. But I'm actually going to ask Kosher. So Kosher, if the chicks are stolen, if the penguins kidnap the chicks, are they likely to survive?
If the chicks are stolen, I'm not too sure. Hey, Jax, it's yeah, we'd have to check on that one. Yeah.
Hi, I am David. I come to you live from the Mana Triangle, all the way from Kenya.
This is not a postcard. This is real. Sunrise in the beautiful Masai Mara.
I think Safari Guide of the Year is a great competition to be a part of.
I'm very excited today to be one of the guys that have been nominated.
It's quite a prestigious event, and it means that you are recognized.
Also looking forward to a little bit of competition.
Even just to be selected as one of the 5 finalists is an honor that I never expected, and special to be a part of it.
Where they actually will take a chick. But I'm not sure if they would survive or not. Oof, it is getting so cold down here. It's really chilly. I'm wearing my full waterproof gear that I usually wear when I go whale watching, but I've skipped a layer, and I've discovered I've skipped the most important layer because I'm starting to shiver and shake, but luckily we've got some coffee at the restaurant here. We'll be able to warm up nicely. And I hope the weather is better over at Juma. I hope you all got to see Cedric's birthday surprise. I woke up to watch that. I thought that was super special. The boys were so cute. I loved Chris's cake. Cedric is going to be following up on Talamba and Cubs. Liam is looking for the Nkahuma Lions, so he's hoping for lion luck. And Chris is on a mission to find some cool tracks. So it sounds like the boys have plans. Whew. So I'm going to be with you until Wednesday.
It's time to put your feet up after a long week. WildEarth invites you to unwind with a weekend at the Waterhole, our life source of the bush, home to so much joy and danger. Join us on the 9th and 10th of July to get your wildlife refill broadcasted to you live all weekend at the Waterhole.
The Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is approaching us rapidly. This year, we'll be heading to Bushwise Field Guides at the Southern African Wildlife College from the 27th June till the 2nd of July. We will soon meet all our contestants who are vying for the prize of being the very best of the best, and the judges who will put them through their paces. Join me, Steve Falconbridge, as we dream it, guide it, win it.
Kosher, we've really enjoyed having you with us here. We've enjoyed being able to learn from you, and we really do hope to see you on the show again very soon. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Jax. It was so lovely being here, and to the viewers, I really had an awesome time. So thank you for the time. And I got to show my cool stuff too.
We got to see some really
We did.
cool show and shells today. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you for watching. We are going to put that poll up tomorrow to see who is the most dramatic penguin beacher. So please do register on the website so that you can join that poll. And I think what we'll do is we'll just spend our last few moments trying to see if we can get some views of the ocean for you. We'll see if Igor can put his camera skills to the test. But I hope that if you are in the Cape, you're staying warm. If you're not, I hope that you've got some sunshine wherever you are today. Thank you again. Enjoy your afternoon, and goodbye from us down here at Penguin Beach.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.